Okay, we're going to make this informal and fun. Safety of food sounds not very fun, but we're going to make it fun. Okay, so I'm going to start by asking the cruisers in the room, has anybody gone through an FDA inspection? Okay. You've had two in a row. Me? And the reason sort of that this came about as one of the things we wanted to talk about this morning was because when we were thinking about ideas for the summit, I had just had an FDA inspection. Okay, so this is all, very exciting. You get to work in the morning, you go about your business. I went off to do a meeting for the Maine Food Means Business. Actually, I was meeting with the Cathe chamber so that we could put on the May 2012 event that was held here in September. And I get a text message. I didn't know that my phone wasn't on. I get a phone calls. I get more text messages. I don't know when this is going on. The FDA's here. The FDA's here. You got to come back. Okay. But I knew that the people that were back to my stop knew what to do. They didn't want to do it because they didn't want to be talking to the inspectors. That's my job. But they knew what to do. So what we want to do is kind of talk about why it's important to be ready for them. Because what we really want to instill in everybody is how important it is for food to be safe. I mean, it's a no-brainer. It seems like common sense. However, when you get into your business every day and you get embroiled in what you're doing and you're just working hard, sometimes you forget the simplest thing like, oh yeah, I got to change the sanitation liquid, the sanitizer that I'm using for my processing. Yeah, it's been a couple hours since I did that. It's going to be done. So we just really want to just talk about things that you have to think about and things that will make all of you that are the grocers understand how diligent we are to make this so that none of your customers get sick. So we're just going to keep bouncing back and forth.
Cathe is accurate on that. Mike and I, when we purchased the assets of Gourmet Food up in Whiting, Maine, we didn't know what we were getting into, but we inherited quite an old plant, which was obviously going to need some refurbishing. So that was obviously our first goal. We went to Better Process Control School, obviously doing high-risk thermal processing, which is canning of food, is one of the most critical as far as the FDA goes. And then add seafood to that, and you really are a fan. So we get back from Better Process Control School, we're humming along, we've got our list of things that we're doing to update, and we all leave for the 4th of July. Monday morning, we pull into the parking lot, and I went, oh no, government plates. Yes, they were there. So this was our very first experience, my very first experience, because I got to wear the hat of quality assurance. Let me tell you, it was a little bit intimidating. It's always intimidating when you see someone with a badge. One thing that I would encourage everyone to do is to know your rights, and that's something that you need to know right off, what your rights are as a producer, as a retailer, when any local, state, or federal agent or inspector, or what do we call them now? What do we call them now? Associates, technical associates come to your facility. You do have rights. You do not open up your filing cabinet. You are going to be presented by a badge of identification, and then they're going to let you know what they're here to inspect. It's not just a blanket inspection. So that should, quell some fears, but it doesn't, because you're still standing there going, oh my God, here's the FDA. They don't plan inspections, so you've got to be, as Cathe said, ready every day, every day. And the beauty of this, after I went through this first day, and I've heard the horror stories, they're going to camp out on you for 3 days, and you're theirs, you're hostage. You have to follow them around, they have access to you for 3 full days. And they did the first day. It actually was a great learning experience, though, because having been through HACCP school, I noticed, and I had the advantage of having one of the premier FDA agents, Rebecca Maxim, be one of the co-teachers of our HACCP program through the Maine Cooperative Extension. Right there in the HACCP planning school, you saw the resistance by most of the producers. And this is really unfortunate. And there's some great reasons why being ready for the inspection, knowing that you're confident in your facility, and having a cooperative attitude with these inspectors who really then can become your technical associates. They can actually be a huge resource to you. So the first 3-day inspection that I went through gave me all the information I needed to know for future inspections. The man comes in, he shows me who he is, and he says, here's what we're going to inspect. And I'm going to go do a plant inspection, which again, I had a great staff that were all very well trained and knew what to expect. So, and then he gives you a list of documents that he wants to review. And this is where it's very difficult for smaller producers to make sure your documents are up to date. There's just some little key things that they're always looking for. What we're going to do, not to go through all of that today, Cathe and I have compiled a list. We're going to obviously ask for resources from you guys, anybody that has things to add to the list, and we're going to have posted, along with the technical session on the website, kind of like an FDA checklist. Something that you can use as a resource, download, and to just go through your plant, go through your facility, make sure that, I mean, these are things that they always hit on. And just make sure that you're covered in these areas, and that's probably going to eliminate a lot of your issues. But basically, after understanding what they were there to do, and that they were going to do their job, didn't matter what my attitude was about it, whether I liked it or not, they're going to do that. I quickly realized that I could turn this from a 3-day ordeal and waste of my time to about a day and a half. So the biggest thing was to just embrace the situation. It's part of the plan. It's part of being in food. And then after that, and I think Cathe will be able to attest to this too, what you realize coming out of an inspection, you're going to find where you may have some weak points in your system. And these are all good, because let's face it, what is the real purpose of the inspection? It's to make sure that we're producing safe food. Now, and of course for the FDA, it's only food safety. What we do as Maine food producers, because we have a huge reputation to protect, the great food in Maine, is we're going to obviously help you to look at this at a point forward toward quality more than just safety. Safety should be a given. But basically, what you come out of with that initial FDA inspection is really a state of your business with regard to safety and quality. And this can only help you with continuing improvement. And so, as Cathe stated earlier, if you look at your business on a day-to-day basis as being ready for that totally unanticipated visit, then you can be very confident that you're producing good quality, safe food at all times.
The interesting thing is that different industries have different requirements that the FDA is going to expect. For example, in my world, HACCP is required. I just have to have some kind of written prevention plan, some kind of control points, which is what HACCP is, but it doesn't have to be a HACCP plan. But I have to have something there that says, if this is happening, I'm going to do this to fix it. And I have to be able to show that to them so that they know that I have a plan in place, that there are checkpoints so that things can be corrected, done properly. It's eye-opening. I always think about when an inspector comes, it's sort of like an unexpected, I love my mother-in-law, believe me I do, but it's like having my mother-in-law come visit. All of a sudden I see a cobwebs that I never saw before. So as Cynthia said, they're going to come in. They're coming in with an eye that, you've walked down that same hallway forever, or been in that same closet doing whatever, wherever the plan. And they come in, and this is the first time they've walked in there. Typically, I've had, since 1996, 5 inspections and 1 visit. And I'll tell you about the visit. It was the first time I ever had an FDA guy come into the building. Owned the place for 6 months, okay? I mean, when Cynthia and Mike bought Bar Foods, and look, they had some food experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I had a really good cheesemaker who loved making cheese, and I was a small business, so I bought a cheese company. We're ready for me. And so this guy walks in to the plant, goes through our plant, walks into the office. I'm sitting there, and he says, "Who the hell are you?" I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know. I'm sort of like the owner of the steak and cheese." And I said, "So who are you?" And he points to his hat. It says FDA. Okay. He decided to stop lying, so he knew who it was. Phew. But that was my first experience with anybody from the FDA. So the first time I had an actual inspection, it was exactly like Cynthia said. I knew what we needed to do. I've been around the business long enough now. I know how to make cheese now. But they came in at that first inspection, and they had a checklist for seafood. They didn't know anything about making cheese, but they were my inspector, and I had to listen to them and had to follow everything that they were telling me to do. Come in, and they come in, and they come and take, they want to take 100 swabs. And I don't know if you know what that means, but they come in with all this sterile stuff, they're in suits, and they're swabbing everywhere. Light switches, anything that you could be touching while you're processing. And then they put them in these little bags and send them off to test for everything. A little intimidating.
Yeah.
But then they're asked to them, like you said, you're captive. So they're walking around saying, okay, now what are you doing here? Why are you doing that? Because they don't know how to make cheese. So you're having to do the process, you're trying to make a product, and they're following around and stopping you at every juncture to find out what you're doing. So then they come back and they tell you what you're doing wrong. Okay, that's really interesting. They've got observations.
After you taught them what you do, they come tell you what you're doing.
So they come back with the observations. Oh yes, as Cynthia said, they come back with observations that are very important. They do see things that you don't see sometimes on a daily basis. And it is such a release when they come back and say, we've closed your case. Thank you very much for having spent 3 days of hell with us. But the bottom line is that, as I said too, that you really need to be ready for that every day, because you want to be in a position where when they walk in and they do all that they're going to walk out satisfied that you are making a good, safe product for yourself, for your peace of mind, for your customers, for the retailers, and everybody that buys products from the state of Maine producers. You want to be able to know with confidence that we're doing our job.
And then, of course, I'm not going to let you go without injecting into how this actually can be a very positive thing for your business. Because to complement the Market Ready program, these are things that we know we must do to keep our food safe. But how do we make this kind of intimidating, challenging experience an actual positive for the business? Well, I came into food safety from the marketing side. So my very first, thing was, okay, I got to get something out of this. So I'm going to go through this 3-day hell. I want to know what I can do with this. And what you can do with this is very, very important to your business, to the confidence of your buyers, the retail buyers, and to your consumers. We are in a very, very social world. We're in a very, very conversational world. People talk. People talk on your Facebook page. People talk on your Twitter site. People talk to their grocery managers. I mean, I've had consumers who call and they don't like something and they're going to go right back to Hannaford and tell them. Of course they are. And of course Hannaford has heard this, and you've heard this. You've had consumers complain. So what you have the opportunity to gain from being ready for an FDA inspection, which may or may not come at any given time, is be ahead of the game. Learn what you can use from being compliant. Compliance is just the way it's going to be. There's no way to be in this business without it. But why not take this and add it as an advantage to enhancing your brand, being able to talk to your customers, being able to say with confidence to your retail buyers who you're trying to get additional products in their store, or you're trying for the first time to get into a store. Give them the reasons that your product is going to be good for them. Retailers today are the first line when something goes wrong in the food industry. The person remembers where they bought it. They don't remember who made it. So they're mad at Hannaford for selling them a product, or they're mad at your store for putting this product on the shelf. So what you are doing is, as a team, and we're all in this together, and this is why this organization and the Market Ready program is so beneficial to everyone here. You have a responsibility to your own company, to your employees. You have ultimately a responsibility to all consumers everywhere, of which you are one too. And you have a responsibility to your partners, which are your retail trade partners, in instilling the confidence in them that your product stands for safety, for quality, and for continuing improvement. If there's new stuff that we know is coming down the line through the Food Modernization Act, you're not going to have to worry about these things if you're already doing things that ensure that you do sleep at night. And it's really, really easy. I've seen it over the last 10 years. People try to cut corners. Well, we don't really have to do that every time. It's that one time that can kill you. Literally kill your business. And you just don't want to have to even think about recovering, the expense to recover from something that was so much easier to have been done right the first time and every time. One of the pitfalls that small producers, and believe me, we're still a small producer when you deal with the overwhelming documentation required. Documentation is your savior. If you document it, your people in your facility may say, gosh, why do I have to write down the temperature of the freezer every 3 hours? Why is it we've got to write down the pH from checking that hand dip station? It saves you. When that FDA inspector comes in, he's going to be impressed if you've gone over and above. And what you're doing is you're not leaving it to chance that everybody's going to remember the training. Because we get busy. We're in the midst of sorting lobster, and we've got to get these cans packed, and we've got to get stuff done. Who knows what time it is? Has it been 2 hours since we checked something? So the documentation and the protocols that you put in place, they really truly are your savior, because they are the record that shows that you cared enough to do it right. And you should get credit for that, and that is your credit. Keeping your records up to date is just the picture of the perfect food safety program. And so this is why we understand what you're going to be going through if you're not already, with developing HACCP plans, developing food safety programs, and hopefully through these market-ready technical sessions and tracks, we will, with your help too, because you'll have information that we won't have, bring it to us when you find something that works for you. There's plenty of information on the website. On the web, there's the GFSI site, there's the FDA site, there's the SQF. You can be ahead of the game. You can go and download pre-assessments. You can download checklists, and we will make these available to you as well. Go ahead and as Bill points out, let's get ahead of this so that you're not running to catch up when the FDA guy comes in and you go, well, we didn't know what we were going to have to do. Ignorance is not going to be an excuse, and it can actually be your best friend. So get out there and get ahead of the thing, and just make sure you're doing it right. Most of you are probably doing it right now, but you probably need to document it. And that's where these programs really come in handy.
And in terms of documentation too, and this is, I just want to ask how many people that are producers are registered with the FDA right now? In case you didn't know, it's a requirement. It's a requirement to be from the Bioterrorism Act and from the Food Safety Modernization Act. Anybody that manufactures, processes, packs, or holds food has to be registered with the FDA. Doesn't mean you're going to be inspected, but it means you need to be registered. So just another thing that's out there that some people just may not know about.
And you may think that you don't need to do that if you're not moving product across state lines or intrastate or interstate. But if you sell off a website, guess what? Your product's going everywhere. So really, that would be your first step, is to go ahead and investigate, go to the FDA site, see what it takes to get registered, and go ahead and have that stuff taken care of. Yes?
You can do questions?
Yes. How about questions? Does anybody have any specific things that we could help address in the immediate future?
I was told by my FDA inspector 2 months ago that every single food producer in this country will be inspected once every 5 years, period. So they haven't been inspected. There's been Jim's and Jellies companies specifically that haven't been inspected for like 15 years because they're one of those low, totem pole people, because it's canning and it's low risk. Thank you. But now it is mandatory to be inspected by FDA once every 5 years.
And you may not be inspected by the FDA. You may be inspected by the Department of Ag acting on behalf of the FDA.
Correct.
Or you may be inspected by the USDA, which is really fun because they don't know what the FDA does. I've had that experience, and it's like, okay, now I've got to teach you what thermal processing is. But no, there are agencies throughout that may do FDA-backed inspections. So
and the expectation from the Food Safety Modernization Act is for that to happen every 5 years, and actually high risk, which Cynthia and my business are considered high risk. I've never figured she's making us high risk, but I can see where it would be.
Well, the very thing that she needs to make her cheese good is a dangerous pathogen in my business. So that right there tells you the complexity of the food industry. She's working to grow mold and pathogens, and I'm trying to keep them out of the food. So, but that does confuse sometimes the inspectors who are not. If it's not within their scope, if you're work for the Department of Ag and you're used to inspecting dairy farms, when you come into a thermal processing plant or a jam and jelly making plant, you're not going to know the scope of it. And that's where you can really solidify your relationship with your inspector, because that's probably the one you might see again. They tend to kind of have them in regions. You might as well make the relationship as good as possible, because they can truly be a fabulous resource. And a little known thing that none of us want to ever think about happening, but if you read any of the food safety recall sites that are out there today, food industry gets involved in litigation from time to time. And I learned firsthand, talking to some folks that had some problems, that their FDA inspector was actually their best friend in that course. And so that relationship that they had, the fact that they had done everything to make sure that their plant was in compliance, really came to bear when they needed testimony to support the fact that they were doing all the right things. And obviously, unfortunate things can happen in any given facility, but the relationship you may have with your inspector could be a great asset to you in the future.
I guess we can take one or two more questions and I guess we need to wrap up. Yes.
Just as scary as the badge is, they ask you to sign an affidavit. Can you explain that, please?
Well, what they're doing is, covering every base to make sure they haven't abused you in any way. And obviously we think it's abuse, but it's not. So what they're going to do is, you should ask to see their badge if they don't display it, and they do carry a badge and a card. So you should know who you're dealing with. Then they have a form sheet that they're going to want an authorized person in your plant. And this is going to really need to be, you need to make sure this is an authorized person, because this can come back to haunt you if it's not. Somebody that's HACCP certified or Better Process Control School certified, depending on your business, is going to be the go-to person or a senior management person. They are going to, and I don't know that I've ever read it word for word, but it basically says that he's presented his credentials, he or she, and you are fully aware of what will take place. And that's basically your affidavit. You will be left with a copy of that, and it also ensures that you have the name of the agent who inspected you, and you get their agreement to give you a copy of the report once they're through with the inspection. Okay. Thanks very much.